Hello, everyone. It's Trainer Mike. You're watching the TXA market update, the end of the week since the last big update that I had after we had broken through the all-time high. And here we sit, still up in the 90,000s, up here in the 91K area, and we pushed higher since the last update. Some alts have moved. Some of the alts we looked at made some pretty good moves. Tyson and Tyson fight's about to happen in 90 minutes. I really kind of want him to knock Jake down a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, crypto has been making some moves, but the big question on everybody's mind is where's it going to stop? And if it stops, is it coming crashing back down? Well, Bitcoin breaking this all-time high with significant volume doesn't necessarily have to stop right away. I mean, every time this has happened in the past, when we've broken a new all-time high, we make some pretty volatile moves on the way out. But oftentimes when you make a strong pop up, that move tends to hold and we go higher. So if we're really getting bullish now, there may be at least a little bit left in this move before we pull back down. And in Discord, in the public channel, one of our old friends, Nova Trader, a trader from the old days, he had pulled some fibs in here and pulled them back to about here. And what he got was this as the 4.23, and you can go look in the Discord and see there. But I went back and looked, and actually in March, I pulled some fibs from the bottom, from the bounce off this move here with this large amount of volume up to the top of this move because there really wasn't a big sell-off. So for me, this was the continuation until they pulled all the way back and you see the selling volume kick in. So for me, that was the peak of this move. And then the pullback was right to here. And when you use those fibs that I pulled back in March, I can pull up my Discord here. And if I go back to TradeX Academy, you can see down here, here was Nova's chart. So let's just look at his for a second because it's always good to learn different points of view. You can see he pulled from the bottom, he came up, and he pulled back just a little bit, and not exactly the same. He's using a weekly chart, and he's using the perpetual contract off of Bybit. So a little bit different numbers that he gets there, and he pulls a 93 for his fib. Now, if you look at my chart from back in March, I linked up to the one that I pulled. This was back in March 2024 when I posted it, and actually March 5th, there you go. And I pulled the fibs from the bottom there up to the top of that swing, and there's where that volume dips on the selling. We get the price dip with the volume spike, and you can see they were following it pretty well, even at that point in March on the low time frame. Okay, this was a 1 day, but you're looking at a lower stretch of time than we were looking at. So here was March 2024, and if you come all the way to the present with those fibs, right? So March 2024 was right about in here. You look at them again without the new all-time high, we weren't sure. I wasn't sure if this was going to work out. But now with the new all-time high, look where they stopped when they came up on that wick. And look where they're getting kind of bunched up into. I mean, I see this as still fully viable. To me, breaking the 618 and hooking back to it and bouncing strong, and then kind of breaking and hooking on the 2.6, but we kind of ran out of gas and went sideways. We wicked down and cleaned up this move, and then we came back up, and now here we are stuck at the 3.6 of those fibs, of that fib series from back in March. So granted, I still had a plenty of this to work with when I was looking at it, but really for me, this 1.6 hit when I was looking in March was the big one. This is really a possible fib series, especially when you get this clean movement down here, this clear break, and then when right after you slam through 1.6, pull back, check in, yep, that significant support there, boom, take off. So that is a very bullish bounce there for me, and this suggests we've got another fib to go to 122. And if we got really crazy, that's an insane 6.85 up there. We would have to go absolutely MicroStrategy nuts. But it's up there, and we've hit 6.85s before on serious cycles. But for me, the real target right now, at least in the short term, is this 122,000 for Bitcoin. So that for me is a big area. If we continue and steam on upwards, we plow through this and tap it, chances are we're gonna fall pretty hard and come back down and check in below somewhere. It may not be all the way to 60. It may just be somewhere along that trend line. So maybe we come back to 79.80. We tap in the all-time high. Who knows? Now, if we get an exhaustive 4.23, if we run straight up and we come straight back down like 2019 style, I mean, we fell off the map and then we went sideways for a while, got stuck, and then really dipped. And that could be your chance to clean back to 31K. But some serious negativity would have to happen. And really, right now, we've got a lot of positive things going on in crypto. We have the election of Trump, whether you like him or hate him, very pro crypto because a lot of pockets have been padded with funding from crypto for him and for those on both sides of the political spectrum. But a lot of people who won seats in the U.S. Senate and the House were backed by crypto sponsors and are expected to back new crypto legislation, which could lead us come January and end of year to this blow off top as the Trump administration takes over. We'll see. That's just the theory. And it doesn't have to happen on that timeline. It could be way later. It could be after legislation gets passed. But there's reasons to believe we have a little bit more room to go fundamentally. Now, that being said, they could come in and clear all the way back down and bounce off the all-time high before going higher. You just don't know. But where we are, if we look through some of the other charts, so here's the DXY on a tear. Even though the Fed cut rates a quarter point last time, still looks like inflation is getting sticky, and this is not slowing down, so they're going to have to do more action in the future. Your Dow went higher and now has pulled back a bit. Even though Bitcoin's creeping higher, the Dow and the SPX both have pulled back. But here you have Bitcoin knocking on a higher high going into the weekend. So this will not surprise me if Bitcoin pops higher. It starts making its way towards that ever psychologically thrilling 100K target, and imagine it just blows past it. That's a point. 120K is a point to me where you can suck in a lot of money, especially if you're going to dump and pull it back and do crazy things. You could suck a lot of retail mom and pop money in right now. I know there's a lot of people I haven't talked to in a long time in my family asking how to get Bitcoin. Can I sell some of my retirement stuff? That hype has not been around since we were talking Super Bowl commercials and all that other stuff. So it's getting there, but to me, it's not quite there yet. And I could see a little more room to go. You can see ETH hasn't made a higher high yet. So potentially Bitcoin goes to that 120K and holds there for a while. That's the oomph to get all the alts to their all-time highs. You can see the CME futures. This is what we're worried about. There's a gap right there at that 80K level. So you could just as easily stop where we are now at that fib level and come back and clean this up at that 80K mark. So look back over here on this chart. If we stop at the 3.618, we could come right back to the trend line at 80K before we make our move to go higher. If that happens, that's our entry into some of these alt charts that haven't really given us entries. Sol sticking up at its high, but there's reasons why it could go higher in the long term, but that's not something you want to buy sticking straight up like that. Here's Doge, a doggy, whatever you want to call it, at the 786. Possibly looking to get back up to that all-time high, but it may dip back down. If Bitcoin comes back a little bit, this one could just as easily shake people loose, come back to the 20 to 22 cent area, right where we swung high last time, before moving onward. So that's that entry opportunity if Bitcoin pulls back for you on Doge or Doggy, right? And there's a lot of charts that are set up like that. You've got some of these charts are kind of just pulled back and in the middle. Some of these have pulled back nicely, so Cello's in a pretty good spot relatively, but it could come all the way back down if Bitcoin does that move, and there's your really good entry. XYO is in a pretty good spot, but again, Bitcoin pulls back, there's your better entry. So there's a lot of reasons why if you're not already in these alts, a pullback in Bitcoin would be pretty welcome. Here on Assemble AI, you can see they came to that pretty good spot there on the moving average, and they're showing a little bit of life. So whether they get all the way to the 618 or not remains to be seen. KDA, there's your potential entry there if Bitcoin pulls back. Engine, they could come all the way back here to that 13 cent mark. If Bitcoin pulls back, that would be a good entry. So as I look through a lot of these charts, here's Algo coming alive. Okay, so Algo may be doing its own thing here. We've talked about this one the last time we met when it was sitting down here. This was one that I said we could potentially take a trade on because where it was sitting. And right now from that point, you'd be up about 57%. and we were looking for those targets up above. I mean, where it is now, you've still got 137%, but it's a lot harder and a lot worse risk at this point. Zeta came back to where we wanted to see and is starting to bounce already. So this one possibly, if it breaks this top of this wedge here, could take off on you pretty quick, but it might wait for Bitcoin first. Poly didn't come all the way back for us. It's sticking straight up a bit. ADA just will not chill. ADA is back on a rip. It's probably trying to get back up over $1. Again, if Bitcoin does that pullback move, potentially ADA could give you some kind of a 20% pullback maybe to this line and give you a new entry. Break, hook, possibly that's your entry, but it's probably not coming back like we were hoping down to 40 cents again, considering it just keeps chugging. KMD is resting down in this low area, plenty of room up above, could see a little pullback if Bitcoin does it. Jasmy, if Bitcoin does its pullback, here's your possible entry on Jasmy. That 18% dip there down just under 2 cents would be an excellent entry. So, I mean, there isn't a whole lot to write home about yet. I think what I'll do, Bonk is, again, gone bonkers. This one, if you'd have picked it up on this trend line, you're up 150%. The meme coins have just been treating people nasty in the best kind of way. If you had them, you're enjoying them. If you didn't, you're shaking your fist yet again going, why are these stinking meme coins really taking off when most of them are vaporware jokes, and it just has everything to do with the state of the market right now. Elon, of course, driving the Doge rally, and some of those meme coins by extent, right? So here's IOTA. If you had picked it up a little bit lower when we were looking at it last week, and I said at the end of the week there, and I said, hey, it's all the way back here near that value zone. It's continuing to go, but you're still in the value zone 1. Now, I don't think it's going to make it all the way to value zone 2. That's a pretty hefty dip. Something crazy would have to happen. But from where it is now back to the top, that's a huge percentage. And there's every reason to believe IOTA can get back up to the top just because of what it does and how entrenched it is. Here's GRT. It's got plenty of room to get back up to the top there as well. Plenty of percent. You can see holding that developed trend line. It went all the way. This was one we pulled this fib series when it first popped up. I pulled this fib series off the top here, this first turnaround move, and I said, hey, there's that 4.23, and look at that. Perfect hit coming all the way back to the 1.6, and now we can take this off and start looking at the retracement from upside down. So we went from this top to this bottom. Here's where we start to retrace. They haven't broke the 50. If they get back to the 786 and the 883, maybe they get to go higher. But you've got plenty of percentage to get back up to that 618 and the 786 on that one. Engine in a great spot still to buy. If Bitcoin shuts down, there's your entry on Engine. Bitcoin does that pullback, you've got a beautiful entry on Engine for plenty of room up above. Algo, we were talking about Algo. It did that bit of that pop. It's up 65%. In just a little bit. I think it was right under this moving average when we looked at it. But again, Algo has plenty of room to go higher. Now, if Bitcoin pulls back for you and Algo does that dip, there's your potential entry. File, same thing. Would really love for Bitcoin to pull File back before it takes off. But even where it is now, plenty of percent. So any of these coins here in the value zone are potentially good moves in what's to come if Bitcoin does that next pop higher. There's your potential entry on Jasmy. I don't want to go too long tonight. I will check in later this weekend. Enjoy the fight if you're watching it. Stay safe, everyone. Do not jump into anything without a plan. If you know your plan and you trust it, then go for it, because you do have that chance on Bitcoin. But you need some stops right now, because Bitcoin is sitting potentially on a 3.618 where it could do a pullback before it breaks through higher. And that would make sense cooling off into the end of the year before the hype comes in. But Bitcoin hype is Bitcoin hype. If they break that 93,600 level strong, they may just go straight on through. So we'll watch. We'll see how it develops. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time. Take care.